All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here on the Harmless Dave channel, documenting the end of the classic rock era and doing it in real time for a few real people just like you and just like me. So, Kansas makes an announcement. Kansas, the band, not Kansas, the state. I'll talk about that. Before I do that, here's Pinnacle Point. Since I'm talking about Kansas, Jerome Mazza, closest thing to Steve Walsh out there. Okay, just the guy is an amazing singer. I'm hoping he's putting out more stuff. He's got solo material out there. You got two albums with Pinnacle Point, and they're both awesome. This one here is the pinnacle of the Pinnacle Point stuff. This is just so good. And if you appreciate the Kerry Livgren side of Kansas, which is really the heart of Kansas, I think you'll really love this album by Pinnacle Point. Every song is a winner. There are no bad tracks on this. And Jerome Mazza, again, closest thing to Steve Walsh. All right, just incredible. So Kansas makes an announcement over on their Facebook page. This happened about 18 hours ago. Scott Bernard is joining the band. He's been with the band, but now he has officially become its newest member, and he's basically going to replace Rich Williams at some point. He's been filling in for Rich for quite some time. He was born in Louisiana, but is a Nashville-based guitar player. He's worked with Kenny Loggins for 17 years, serving as a guitarist, background vocalist, and musical director for the past 7 of those years. Scott has also worked with Michael McDonald, Whiteheart, John Schlitt, Richard Marx, Al Stewart, Joe Bonamassa, Alan Parsons. That's cool. So he's got a little prog mojo there with the Alan Parsons stuff, but very different than Kansas. Mark Schultz, Michelle Wright, Blue Sky Riders, Terry Clark, Gary Burr. So it's like a who's who of the music industry. So he's worked with a lot of different people, including Nicole C. Mullen. That's interesting. He says, to say that I am excited to join the Kansas family is quite the understatement. As a lifelong Kansas fan, their music has been an integral part of my musical upbringing. My first concert ever as a teenager was Kansas. That's pretty cool. They were and remain my favorite band ever. He says, I am deeply humbled to be chosen to help perpetuate their legacy, which is both a privilege and a surreal experience. Kind of sad that Kansas hasn't even been nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just thought popped into my head. And you know what? If I'm the only one that beats the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame drum when there's an injustice, the Go-Go's are in, but Kansas is not in. I love to throw that out there. I like the Go-Go's, by the way. I don't have a problem with the Go-Go's. I just think if you're going to put the Go-Go's in there, you've kind of lowered the bar a lot. So, you know, America isn't in. The Guess Who isn't in. There's just so many bands. It's just Bryan Adams isn't in the Hall of Fame. Phil Collins. All right, I got to stop. Scott Bernard is a fantastic guitar player, a great guy, and is my hand-picked choice. This is Rich Williams. He's also a Wheathead. And Rich Williams, which people are probably more concerned about why Rich is stepping away, he says, I'm not stepping down nor retiring, but I am slowing down. Macular degeneration has made travel increasingly difficult to the point where it impedes my ability to get to as many shows as I want. I will still be at and perform at as many concerts as I can. Adding Scott as a member of Kansas alongside guitar player Zach Rizvi allows the shows that I'm not at and Kansas to go on well into the future. So this is their plan. All right. He says, when all 3 of us are there, we will all perform. In 1974, we made a statement that Kansas is a band. Yes, they are. They are a band. They're also a state, too. Just want to clarify. It was true then, and it continues to be true now. Scott Bernard, welcome to Kansas. Well, Toto, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. I had to add that because at some point, yeah, people, the hardcore fans, are going to be like, okay, we were okay when this guy wasn't there anymore. A lot of fans left when Steve Walsh said, I'm done. Where's Phil, by the way? It says here that Phil is still in the band. Phil Ehart, the drummer. It says Eric Holmquist performs on drums while Phil Ehart continues to recover from a major heart attack. That was 2 years ago. I don't know how Phil comes back after that. I don't know. See, what I don't like, and this happens in all of these bands, it's happening in Chicago right now, like where's Robert Lamb? And people say, well, Robert's got this problem and that problem. Well, you should announce it. Tell fans what's going on. Some shows, Jimmy Pankow isn't there, and he had some medical issues. Just say, hey, he's going to step aside. At least they're doing that here to some degree. They're letting fans know what's going on. But when it comes to the band Kansas, I get it. It has been a collective. It's been many different musicians. You have the John Elefante era of Kansas, and then Steve Walsh put the thing back together again with just Steve and, was it Phil, right? Everybody else was different. And so the band continued on with different players, and people accepted that band. And I would say that band in the 80s with Steve Walsh, they did, 2 albums during the 80s, and they were both really good albums in the spirit of things and power. But to me, that was kind of like the last gasp of the really good stuff. I know they did put out more music, and it was pretty good. And then they became a touring machine. So I don't know. Fans tend to just want to go see a band like this and listen because of the nostalgia. They want to hear the old music, and they're hoping that the band can still pull it off. But when you get down to 1 or 0, technically this is 0 original members. If Rich Williams isn't there, because Phil's not there, and if I were to guess, I would say Phil's not coming back. So maybe he will. Maybe he will. And that would be cool. But it was like Mick Jones. He kept saying, yeah, I'm going to step aside for a while. And then it became clear that Mick Jones wasn't going to come back with Foreigner. So if you're a classic rock fan, you're going to have to get used to the fact that most of these bands are just brands. I'm thinking, what stops a really good tribute band from replicating this music better than this current band? Now, it's great that they've got quality musicians up there, and they're all, trained to be great players, and that's fantastic. But I think it starts at vocals. If your vocals aren't up to what they once were, and you don't have like a Robbie Steinhardt character, right, to sing his stuff, you're already taking a couple steps back. That's why this guy here is so good, Jerome Mazza from the band Pinnacle Point. You go listen to him, and he sounds like Steve Walsh more than the current singer does. That's my humble opinion, and I'm not trying to dump on the guy. I know some people have hit me with, well, you just don't like him for whatever reason. And the band liked him as a person. They got along with him. They even said Rich Williams is one of those guys, hey, we need to be on the road with people we like, which I get that. But you also need to put out the best product possible if you're going to keep that name, and you're going to show up and people are going to close their eyes and think to themselves, okay, does this sound like Kansas? Yeah, it kind of does. Kind of does. But lots of room out there for a good tribute band to go toe-to-toe with this lineup. So anyway, we'll see what happens with this. Like many of these bands, it just People, the casual fans, are going to show up. They're going to buy the tickets. They're going to spend hundreds of dollars. Now, you've got no original members. I mean, eventually soon, it's going to be zero original members. You need to start charging less. Okay. It needs to, the money at this stage, yeah, it's important. You need to pay everybody and maybe make a profit. But going forward, I think the ticket prices should definitely come down as a reflection of the fact that you don't have any original members in the band. But this hasn't really happened yet. It happens a little bit when they're not selling tickets. The ticket prices come down a bit. And I think people are starting to catch on to this stuff, and they're not as willing to pay all this money. But the trend line, though, is still like, okay, we've got the name. Kevin Cronin found out, though, that you really need the name. So the name means more than who's in the band. And that's just kind of sad, because the product is as important, if not more important, than the name if you want to sustain this for a long period of time. All right, so I'm babbling on here, so I'm going to stop. If you want to support this channel, please do that. Patreon, YouTube memberships, Buy Me a Coffee, and PJ Rock Super Chats. My name is Dave. Thanks for being here. God bless everyone. Remember, God's grace is sufficient. It's completely sufficient. It's not up to you. It's up to what God has done already for us, and you grasping that. Once you believe that, you're in with God forever. You don't have to work your way into heaven. Works are not required. Grace is sufficient. Otherwise, it wouldn't say that. God's grace is sufficient. So there you go.